Greetings, everyone. It's 1/25/2019, and I'm putting out that Daniel chapter 9 video I told you about. The timeline that's in it. So if the 14-year timeline is accurate, then the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9 verse 24, subtracted from the day of redemption, the seventh seal, should equal the time of when construction on the walls of Jerusalem started and the bringing again of the Jews back to Jerusalem. Every teaching that I've ever seen on Daniel 9 has been way off. And one of the main reasons is right here. So Daniel's saying that he observed in the books the number of years which was revealed to Jeremiah for the completion of the desolations of Jerusalem. Then he specifies that he's talking about the 70 years in Jeremiah. 70 years. 70 years accomplished. 70 years. Okay. And this, now, our prayers aren't always answered the way we want them to be. Okay. So Daniel is talking about the completion of the desolations of Jerusalem, and he wants to know about the 70 years because he thinks it should be done. All right. But the angel, when he answers his prayer, he completely doesn't talk about the 70 years. Why? Because the main thing of Daniel, of what he's talking about, it's the completion of the desolations of Jerusalem. And that's what the angel answers. That's what Gabriel answers. He tells him about when the completion of the desolations will occur. Alright? And another thing that throws everybody off is the English translations here. There's a couple poor translations into the English from the Hebrew, and the main one is Messiah the Prince. Messiah, alright? This is not referring to the Messiah. And this from 24, this whole answered prayer has nothing to do with the crucifixion. Because most people teach that the 69 weeks ended at the crucifixion, and then there's a 2,000-year pause in between the crucifixion and now. So the 69 weeks ended at the crucifixion, but then there's a 2,000-year pause, and then the 70th week is at when the beast confirms the covenant, and in the middle sets up the mark, etc., etc. All right. First of all, it has nothing to do with the crucifixion. It's the final 70 weeks of our time. The final 490 years of our time. And the final week is not the 70th week, because we're not here for after the 70th week. The 71st week is for the final covenant. All right? Because he says, the 70 weeks have been decreed for your people and your holy city. Okay, so who is your people? Well, up here, my people Israel. Now he doesn't say my people, the sons of Israel. He doesn't say my people, the sons of Jacob. He doesn't say my people, the tribes of Israel. No, he says my people Israel. Okay? And then when you come down here, your people, well, who are they? They are the anointed who will be removed. Okay? My people, spiritual Israel, the anointed who will be removed. So the 70 weeks are for spiritual Israel. Then it says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision of prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Okay. So what does all that mean? To finish wickedness, transgression. That's in reference to the consummation of judgment upon the wicked. The final 7 years of wrath. Okay. To seal up, end sin. This is in reference to Revelation 16 verse 17 and Revelation 20 verse 3. So we got Revelation 16. Then the seventh angel poured out his bowl upon the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne, saying, "It is done," to end sin. Okay? And then, what was what? Revelation 20, verse 3. And he threw him into the abyss, shut it, and sealed it over him. Okay, so the sin is ended for the fallen angels who get thrown into the lake of the fire, and the sin is sealed up for the dragon, the 10 rebel angels that get put into the prison. So the fallen angels that are currently in the prison, the abyss, when they get released at the 5th and 6th trumpets, they have their final time and they get their consummation of judgment, and they get thrown into the lake of fire. So they're ended. But the dragon, who hasn't been in prison yet, gets thrown into prison, the abyss, and they get sealed up. Atone, reconcile for iniquity. That's the wrath, the 7 years of wrath, the 71st week. It's the final punishment for the original sin, the iniquity of the fallen angels, whom the Almighty puts the blame of all sin on. Their first act of rebellion. To bring in everlasting righteousness, this is the day of redemption. And to seal up the vision of the prophecy. This is Daniel chapter 12, verse 9. Okay, where we at? Daniel 12, verse 9. He said, "Go your way, Daniel, for these words are concealed and sealed up until the end time." Okay? So, to seal up the vision and the prophecy, right? This 70 weeks prophecy, right here, this is a confirmation of it, because Daniel 12 confirms this phrase right here. This is for the end times. This 70 weeks is for the end times. It has nothing to do with the crucifixion. All right? It's the final 490 years until the seventh seal, which is the removal of the anointed. Then anoint, consecrate the most holy. This is in reference to Daniel 12, verse 11, which is talking about the daily sacrifice being removed. So what is the daily sacrifice? Believers are the daily sacrifice. Okay, so So you also, as living stones, being built up a spiritual house for a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifice acceptable. All right, that's not the one I was looking for. Hold on here. Here we are. It's Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Almighty, that ye may present your bodies a living sacrifice, living daily sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto the Almighty, which is your reasonable service. Okay, so we got here, from the time that the regular sacrifice, the daily sacrifice, this is talking about believers, the day of redemption, the seventh seal. From the time of the seventh seal until the time of the mark of the beast is set up, there will be 1290 days. How blessed is he who keeps wait and attains the 1335. So there's 45 days right here in between these two day counts is the time when the beasts kill everyone for not taking the mark. And this is the time that's cut short. Okay, so the mark set up at the 1290, which is 1290 days after the seventh seal. The regular daily sacrifice is removed. And then this is the Revelation 14:13. Blessed are they who don't take the mark and die in the Messiah. Alright. Now it gets a little tricky because there's two different sacrifices that are removed. In Daniel 12:11, the regular sacrifice is removed, which is the seventh seal. But up here in Daniel 9:27, he puts a stop to the sacrifice and grain offering. And what this is talking about, it's talking about when the mark of the beast is set up. But in the midst of the week, when the mark is set up, he puts a stop to the sacrifice and grain offering. Right? For all the people who think that there's going to be temple services for the Jews going on during the first 3.5 years of the wrath, you are way wrong. Okay? The beasts are not conquering via peace. They are conquering what's left of the earth with ease, with their locust army of demons. Okay? And once all the fallen angels are released at the sixth trumpet, I mean, look at how much destruction they do. They are not taken over with peace, all right? They are conquering humanity with ease. So, I mean, that's a joke to think that there's going to be temple sacrifices and grain offerings going on for the first 3.5 years. I mean, they immediately trample the temple underfoot right when they're released from the abyss. It's the first thing they do. So, like, why do people think there's going to be sacrifices and grain offerings going on when the beasts trample the temple underfoot and conquer Jerusalem? I mean, come on. This is not talking about that. It's talking about he puts a stop to the 144,000, the sacrifice, and the new believers, their offering. Their ministry won new believers to the Messiah, which is like an offering. Okay? They sacrificed to come down and minister to the unbelievers, and the fruit, the seed of their ministry is the offering. Okay, so that's two differences between the sacrifices here and the timing differences. This sacrifice starts the 1290 days, and this sacrifice is at the end of the 1290 days. And this offering is at the end, is in between the 1290 and the 1335. So what it's saying here is to anoint, consecrate the most holy. And it's referring to the most holy of offerings, the most holy of sacrifices, which is referring to the believers, the anointed. So now we get to Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. Okay. Going forth of the command. This phrase in the Hebrew means acting upon the command. Not from the time of the command. It means when the command is acted upon. Right? So in the verse, it just says to build Jerusalem, but Jerusalem wasn't destroyed. Only the walls were destroyed. And further down in the verse, it specifies the wall. Okay. So from the acting upon of the command to build the walls, which would be the start of the construction, and to the time that they are brought back, both of these equal 1536. As we see right here, Suleiman restored the walls in 1536 and encouraged Jews who had been expelled from Spain and Portugal to settle in the city. So during this time, the medieval Inquisition was going on, and Jews all throughout the world were being, at best, treated as second-class citizens, and at worst were being killed. So it was a bad time. And a little bit prior to this, the Mamluks, I think they're called, they really gave the Jews a real bad time when they conquered the city, and they gave oh, there it is right there. Mamluk. They were really hard on the Jews. So 1536 actually confirms both the restoration of the walls, the rebuilding of the walls, and the decree for the people to come again. And it says, so from this time, 1536, until Messiah the Prince, which Messiah in the Hebrew just means anointed, and Prince is a ruler. So from the time that the command is acted upon to build the walls and to bring the people back again, the Jews back again to Jerusalem, until the anointed ruler, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. Okay. So these are two different time periods here. Got a 7-week time period and a 3-week time period. Okay. Excuse me, a 62-week time period. Now, the Hebrew here for street is broad wall. Okay, and that's what they called the Nehemiah wall, the broad wall. And then it says, the walls shall be built again. And the Hebrew word for built is rebuilt, restored, repaired. Okay. In troublous times. All right. So there's two time periods there, the 62 weeks and the 7 weeks. Okay. So the 62 weeks and the 7 weeks. So 7 weeks is 49 years, 62 weeks is 62 times 7. 434, I think it is. 434 plus 49. show you the broad wall here quick. Okay, so here is the remains of the broad wall. Okay. And this was unearthed by this archaeologist who basically started excavating in Jerusalem in 1970. He was given the go-ahead in the end of 69, and they pretty much started in early 70s, or excuse me, in early 1970. Okay. Now 926. Then it says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. Alright, this is poor translations into the English, right? So what it's really saying here is that after the 62, meaning after both sets are complete, the anointed, your people, spiritual Israel, will be removed. Okay, in the Hebrew, it has nothing, there's no record of himself. I don't know why they added that into the English. See, the New American Standard doesn't even have himself. It says Messiah will be cut off and have nothing, right? But this is just a confused translation here. What it's saying is after the weeks are completed, the anointed will be removed, but not the city and the sanctuary. Meaning the anointed will be rescued, but not the city and the sanctuary. Then it says, in the Hebrew it would read, the troops of the prince who shall come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, which is the flood. When the fifth trumpet releases the angel of the abyss and his children, the demon locust army, right? And it says the end will be with a flood. So the troops destroy the city and the sanctuary, which is the locust demon army, and the angel of the abyss, and the 10 horns of the dragon, the 10 rebel angels that are thrown down. They destroy the city and the sanctuary. All right. But then, at the end, it'll be with a flood, which is in reference to Revelation 12:15. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with a flood. Okay. So this is the end, right here. The end of the 70 weeks, right here. Or excuse me, the end when the final removal of the believers occurs, which is when the beast kills them. When the dragon was enraged with the woman, who right now, at this point in time, the woman is represented by the new believers. The woman, spiritual Israel, is represented by the new believers, that the 144,000, because they just got raptured right here, which is Revelation 11, come up hither. That's the rapture, which is the same thing as right here, flying into the secluded place where she's taken care of, away from, because they're in New Jerusalem now, at Mount Zion, at the heavenly Mount Zion, with the Messiah. And then the beasts wage war for the next 42 days and kill all the rest of the believers, which is the remnant of the 144,000, the children, the remnant, the seed of the 144,000. And then until the end of the war, which is Armageddon, the very end, desolations are completed. Alright, now we go to 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, so, and he, which is the prince that shall come, shall make an alliance. Alright. So it's Apollyon will make an alliance, a covenant, with the strong, which is the 10 horns that get thrown down from space, to rule over the many, the humans, which is Daniel 11:39. So this is the covenant of the many. Well, I should say the alliance of the strong to rule over the many. Okay. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Okay. So when the 10 horns, the 10 rebel angels, get thrown down out of space, and Apollyon is released, that occurs at the trumpets 1 through 5 occur over a 2-day period. So the 10 horns are thrown down, and Apollyon and his demon children are released almost at the same time. They immediately make an alliance. The 10 horns basically give their dominion. They make an alliance. They basically recognize Apollyon as the dominant. Alright? So and it's the same as in Revelation 17, 16, I think it is. Well, actually, the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not yet seen the kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose: they give their power and authority to the beast. Alright, this is the alliance. They basically give their allegiance to the beast, and then the beast lets them rule over their nations that they control. For the Almighty has put it in their hearts to execute his purpose by having a common purpose and by giving their kingdoms to the beast. Alright? So that's what that alliance is. It has nothing to do with peace. It is not a peace covenant. It has nothing to do with peace. The final 7 years, there is no peace. It's complete devastation, annihilation, destruction. And the mark is just the angels who view humans as inferior. It's just them trying to make humans into their image. So even then, they're not, when they become Babylon the Great, it's not like they actually like the humans. They're trying to make them into to be like them, like the giants of old, their children. So he makes a covenant, an alliance, for 1 week, which is 7 years, which is the final consummation of judgment upon the fallen angels, the wrath. Okay, in the middle of the week, he ends the sacrifice and the offering. So in the middle of the week, he sets up the mark, which ends the sacrifice, because the 144,000 are the first to refuse. They set the example, and then the seed of their ministry, the remnant of their ministry. So their ministry, their offering is the new believers that they win to the Messiah, because they refuse the mark and they're killed. Then it says, on the wing of abominations shall come the one that makes desolate. All right. And what this is saying is, at the pinnacle of the worst time of abominations, which is the Revelation 17, the mother of abominations, Revelation 17:5, the mother of abominations, which this is right here, is where Babylon the Great is created, this is code right here for the mark of the beast. On her forehead, a name marked, written. Okay, so it's right here is the mark of the beast, and this is what creates Babylon the Great, and it's the mother of abominations. So on the pinnacle, the mother of abomination is the mark that makes all desolate. Because if a person takes the mark, their humanity is removed, their garments of salvation would be stripped off, they will no longer be able to get salvation, and they will be thrown into the fiery wrath of the Almighty and killed in the winepress by the Messiah. And then it says, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. So, until the consummation, the wrath is completed, and it is poured out on the desolate. So this is talking about the bowls here. Alright? So, what's the whole point here? Is that if the 14-year timeline is accurate, then the 70 weeks subtracted from the seventh seal, which is the removal of the anointed, it should equal when the construction of the walls begin, and the command for the people, the Jews, to come back, the decree to come on back to Jerusalem. And guess what, people? It works perfect. The calculations are perfectly fit. Right here we have Okay, so the seventh seal, which there happens to be a solar eclipse on this day, 8/12/2026, the Pentecost pilgrimage, which is the day of redemption, the removal of all believers, those that still remain on earth because they missed the first pilgrimage, and the dead. So the earth, the believers, dead and alive, are completely removed from the earth and secured into New Jerusalem. So from this, minus 70 weeks, which is 490 years, should be exactly when the walls of Jerusalem started being built again, rebuilt, restored, and the decree for the Jews to come back to Jerusalem. Well, guess what? It fits perfectly. 490 years minus 2026 equals 1536. The wall's built. 62 weeks. Old city, Jewish quarter, city of David, starts to be rebuilt. Then the 49 weeks, the anointed ruler, which I believe to be President Trump. And that's basically one of the main premises of this video, is to establish that the anointed ruler will begin in 2019, which has to do with the seals, which I'll explain that in the next video. And then the 70 weeks right here fits perfectly. Then the 71st week, because see, the 70 weeks are for your people, the anointed Israel, spiritual Israel, the believers. So believers, they're done after this. Gone. Now the 71st week is the wrath, which is the final consummation of judgment, to complete the desolations. And then, because in Daniel, when Gabriel tells him about the 2300 days, and then he emphasizes again in a later on, he says the days, the 2300 days and nights, they are true. So he tells Daniel about the 2300 days until it's going to be properly restored, properly cleansed. And then he reaffirms it and later on and says that the days and nights, they're true. All right? Well, coincidentally, when I subtracted 2300 days from the day that I've calculated for the Messiah to come down, which is exactly 2,000 years after he went up, right here. So 2,300 days minus the day when he comes down, which would be the proper cleansing. It happens to fall exactly on the sixth trumpet, which is a solar eclipse. And it just so happens that the sixth trumpet is when the final of the fallen angels are released. So you have the trumpets 1 to 5 right here on 9/11. The war in heaven throws down the 10 horns of the dragon, and then the fifth trumpet releases the angel of the abyss and his children, which are the demon locust army. Then 5 months later, the rest of the fallen angels are released. So now all the wicked are on earth. And this is when the pollution officially starts. The pollution. And then 2,300 days later is when the Messiah comes down. And that's when it's properly restored. Or you could also say that's when the desolations are completed. So, in the next video, I'll be going over the first couple seals. Hopefully I'll have that in a week or two. It's going to have a lot in it. It'll be contrary to what most people are teaching or saying or believing or thinking or theorizing. Because I believe that President Trump is the anointed ruler. And when the wise virgins, the Church of Philadelphia, when they are removed, that's when he officially gets his anointing. Right now, he is definitely acting on behalf of the Messiah and the Almighty by systematically laying the foundation to take down the shadows that are ruling this world. But when the wise virgins are removed, and I believe that President Trump is going to be the instrument that the Messiah uses as his arrows when he fires them at earth. But I'll explain all that in the next video. So, I think I got everything. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. Any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as possible. I work a lot of hours, so I can't always get to them right away, but I do my best, alright? Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Till the next time.